All right, it is 12:01. Welcome everybody to this week's Cornbelt Umpires Association Umpire Education Clinic. My name is Jake Samp. I am unfortunately without my right-hand man and compadre Connor, as he's unable to be with us today. But we have Dan Adkins and Russ Lundquist joining us today. And we're going to be discussing plate meetings. And so just out of everybody's time and stuff, please make sure we're muted. If you got any comments or questions, please do feel free to share them either by using the hand raise function, or if there's just kind of a natural pause, go ahead and jump in. So without further ado, we'll get rock and rolling, but my contact information is on the bottom, as well as Connor's. And if you have any questions about what we're talking about, or just any of the weird stuff, topics that you want to have us discuss at some point in time, do feel free to shoot one of us an email, and we will try to get you an answer, and or do a clinic on it if we get enough requests. So I don't know how Dan or Russ does their plate meeting, but I kind of have basically 5 steps that I use in mine. We got a question here. Go ahead, Dan.
Go ahead.
I got another Dan that I had a hand raised. Dan, how did you have a question?
Let
me go.
Carry on, Jacob.
All right. So as I was saying, I have 5 kind of elements to my plate meeting introductions. I just kind of introduce myself. Then we do the exchange, certification, ground rules, and then any other remedial questions. Danny, I don't know if you have any other things that you kind of add into your plate meeting. I should add that kind of the inspiration of this discussion topic for this week is usually once every 2 weeks or so, the NCAA sends out points of emphasis, or just I don't want to say best practices, but they send out some really interesting theoretical topics for umpires to consider. And yesterday we had one sent out on plate meeting, organization of plate meeting, and trying to be as efficient as possible with our plate meetings.
Jake, what I would add is, particularly working college, junior college, or D3 or any higher level, you want to figure out the technology at your park, whether it involves a clock that can be seen or whether there might be some form of video. If video is in play, we learned from a fellow named Mike Conlon last year, don't just say they've got one camera, find out how many cameras they've got, how many angles. You're going to want to get that nailed down. And do not be the umpire that has this orientation at the beginning of his season, tucks his stuff in the trunk and says, I won't see a camera this year. You need to know these rules if you're going to work a single college game, because it's going to crop up. It did that to me at Augsburg or at Augustana, and we made an enemy into a friend that weekend, but it was a hell of a challenge. And it would have been better if instead of the night before we ended up with the requirements that I had memorized every single thing I could out of the appendix about replay. And what we found was that, like I said, it can be used to supplement your credibility if you're ready for it and if you know what the rules are. So be ready if you're going to work a single college game for both the clock where you have to see it and have to manage it and have to control someone who's got the power to do so, and a backup. In addition, whether or not you're going to have replay. Just smart to have that in your conversation at the plate meeting, because you're going to want to nail down what you learned from the site manager in the meeting as you go forward. And for every college umpire on this list, you need to be damn sure what's going on with bat testing before you get to the facility and you're ready to talk about it at the plate meeting. Color of sticker matters, whether or not they have assessed the bats. All that stuff's got to be done for us before we get there, or it's going to be on us if there's misuse. And these guys push the envelope. I have no doubt that's going to happen. The only thing I'd add to the 5-person or the list of 5 that Jake put on is one more, and the most important one. These guys are paying attention to your appearance, your demeanor, and the way that you move, either the minute you get on the site or certainly as soon as you get to the field. Your uniform has to be as crisp and clean as it can be, and you have to walk with purpose. You must be formal but friendly from the minute you walk on that field. They're watching how you interact with each other, and they're going to see how you interact with them. This is the first and most important establishment of credibility that I've ever been able to utilize, and it just means the world.
You will hear me say this throughout this clinic and at the end here when we kind of summarize everything. The plate meeting will set the tone of the game. If you have a good plate meeting, you've already established some level of credibility, and you can either build or it can crumble from there. But a good plate meeting is a great way to set the tone for a game, a series, doubleheader. Doesn't matter what level you're working at, from little league all the way to the college level. A good plate meeting starts the day off right.
Jake,
or go ahead, Russ.
Jake, I want to expand on one thing you just said. You can build great credibility at a plate meeting, and then it can crumble later. And you got a decent chance of winning people back with your good hustle, your rules knowledge, your mechanics, and the way you talk to people. If you get to a plate meeting and your credibility is crumbled at the plate meeting, you have zero chance to build it back together during the game, because they already don't think you know what you're doing, and it's almost impossible for them to begin to see that you know what you're doing, because their first impression is what matters.
Excellent stuff, Russ. And I guess I had these kind of out of order, but if you're a regular here, we try to do these weekly, and it's to grow. I guarantee if you ask Dan, Russ, or myself, we're going to be the first people to tell you that we are not experts on this by any means. We do this to help other umpires and help ourselves as well. And so if you have topics that you want us to do, please do send them to us, because we want to know, we want to be responsive as far as what everybody is wanting to do. So as far as the plate meeting goes, according to official baseball rule 403, it is to be 5 minutes prior to the first pitch. And I didn't put the rule in here because it is just one big block of text, but I kind of summarize it here. So 403A basically says, first, the home manager gives their lineup to the plate umpire. And there's a very specific reason that we will discuss here in a little bit as to why it's the home manager first. After the plate umpire receives the lineup card from the home manager, the visiting manager gives their lineup to the plate umpire. 403C is very interesting one, because for the way that I've always understood the rule, numbers and positions are just a courtesy. The only thing that matters is last names, but as a courtesy, each lineup should list the fielding position of each player, any designated hitters, substitutes. One thing to know with the DH rule, know if you're playing under a rule set that where the pitcher automatically is the designated hitter, or if the pitcher has to be, if the designated hitter must be designated on the lineup card prior to the plate meeting. Ensure all copies are identical. And then we'll kind of touch on the importance of 403A. Up until the plate umpire or umpire in chief is given the lineup card, the home team has the authority to determine the fitness of the field conditions, and weather-related issues as far as fitness for play. As soon as the home lineup card is given to the plate umpire, the plate umpire, who is referred to here as the umpire in chief, and note that that's a difference between if you're working a 3 or 4 person system, the umpire in chief is the plate umpire as opposed to a crew chief. As soon as the umpire in chief receives the home lineup card, they have the sole authority to determine the fitness of the field and field conditions. And so we want to take the plate umpires, we want to take the home team's lineup card first. That way we get authority as to the fitness of the field and anything else related to the administering of the game as soon as possible from when we step on the field. Dan, Russ, any thoughts, additions?
That's right.
I think you covered it well.
Thanks. Let's talk ground rules. I think most of us have had, a fair number of plate meetings, but we have different ground rules at every facility. And there's no worse situation than screwing a ground rule up where you got to take and it hurts, it hurts a team because we screwed up ground rules. And so it's very important that we get clarification of ground rules. We discuss the ground rules thoroughly, and we make sure that both managers and the entire umpiring crew is on the same page as to what the ground rules are. Typically, if I'm working at a park that I have a team who it is their home park, I will let that manager take us around on the ground rules. And while I'm listening to make sure that I understand the ground rules, the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that none of these ground rules conflict with playing rules. Because no ground rule can contradict the rule book. And so I think, and Dan, Russ, tell me if your observations are different. Larry, go ahead and jump in too. I think the biggest issue that I run into with ground rules and contradicting the rule book is when we start getting into a catch and carry situation near a dead ball area. Is there any other real ground rule that really gets brought up that's a conflicting one that you guys can think of?
There's one I can think of, and I think it probably will resonate for some high school guys. And know your rule book backward and forward on the grounds themselves and the start of the game. And I know they're listed out in all the rule books very clearly. What Russ and I will run into a lot of times is, for example, at St. Mary's, good coach, good guy, but he really wants to have players on the side of the dugout closer to the plate, and they don't have a lot of room there anyway. He will put humans in a space and bats and all sorts of equipment where we don't have foul balls. We have overthrows. I mean, the ball's going to get in there, and he wants to make that something that it's not important to him. You got to put this into the plate. You got to be real clear. I don't want to see a single breathing biped anywhere near my plate. Nobody outside the dugout on this side. If he's on the far side, it's got to be marked off, and that ball is dead. That area is dead. It's got to be marked, and a ball going in there or a foot going in there, and we've got rules that apply. And we're not doing catch and carry. We're not doing throws from weird angles. We're not going to change what the college rule book has very carefully delineated for very important reasons because of the grounds. It's not going to happen. But yeah, catch and carry becomes an issue from whence they can throw. Summer for me is so much different because we get power lines and all sorts of stuff that can drop into play. At the college level, at the high school level, those fields should not have those kinds of quirks. And if they do, the rule that has to apply has got to come from the rule book to the extent that it can. It doesn't matter how friendly the coach is. It doesn't matter how agreeable most of the players are. If they're trying to change something from what's in the book, you got to be real clear that that's not going to happen. That's not going to be the case. That said, Russ watched the video of us working last year in the MIAC tournament. The bullpens are literally in play. There's a whole bunch of bodies in there, and we probably had 2 or 3 balls a game get into a place where you have to go and umpire. What it means is leaving your position, race down there, watch that ball kick around, and hope your colleagues are paying attention to come and fill in behind you. And in 2-man, that means some heavy lifting. So be aware of the weird yard, be aware of the corners that are different, be aware of a left field or right field corner where a ball can skip out. You got to move. You got to get your eyes down there. And then you got to be real clear in the plate meeting as to what the outcome of the play is going to be. And it's going to come from the book, not from something that the guy came up with while he was standing there talking to you.
Where was that tournament at?
It was at St. John's. It's a beautiful multi-million-dollar facility with great turf, and they just built the bullpens directly behind the dugouts, and they recess desperately, and they're squared off. But man, that ball gets under the fence. It gets under the benches. It gets into the equipment. Hopefully they kept that off the ground, but they're kids. They don't pay attention. They're throwing their shit all over the place. Throwing baseballs. You get a ball in there. It's just a headache. So you want to be clear.
Dan, that's brilliant. That's what I was going to bring up is the bullpen areas. Pitchers are, if they're going to warm up, what do they need to warm up with? Baseball, right? And what's the thing that they like to do with that baseball when they're done warming up? Is drop it on the ground. So all of a sudden now you're in a position where you've got a batted ball or thrown ball, doesn't matter actually, goes into the bullpen area, and all of a sudden we got two baseballs.
And they're identical because they're using game balls.
The rule book let us do with two baseballs.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not mentioned. We don't have an option for two baseballs. So now we got a crazy situation where we have to umpire our way out of a trick bag, to use Hallian's situation. Our ass is in a jackpot because we got two baseballs, and we could have avoided all of that if we would have spent just a few seconds looking around, telling these guys, make sure we get the loose baseballs off, get them in a bag, pick them up, hold on to them, do something. And this is not really at the plate meeting. I mean, it is, but it's all game. So I don't want to hijack your plate meeting thing, Jake, to go all game, but you can set that tone at the plate meeting when you know you have an open bullpen. Coach, just make sure you let all your pitchers know we got to get equipment and baseballs up off the ground. We can't have stuff laying around. The obvious thing is, do you want your first baseman to roll his ankle on your catcher's mitt or baseball when you're down there? And of course, they're going to say, no, I don't want that. So make sure they get their stuff up off the ground, and then you got to fight that all game.
Let me bring that back to the plate meeting, Russ. That's a good point. One of the things that we're learning from Mark Ditzworth, especially, but all the guys that choose who goes to Omaha, we've been in front of them, we've heard them, and they all say the same thing. If you're the base umpire in a plate meeting, let's say it's me and Jake, and we're at a yard where Jake's comfortable, he's worked before, and he's dominating the conversation just like he's supposed to. He's rolling. Am I staring off in the center field and picking my nose? I need to be listening to what he's saying because he's telling me my responsibilities and obligations. And I need to listen for things that maybe he didn't cover. I'm not necessarily going to talk, but I want to be able to say, if he doesn't cover it, maybe there's a reason he didn't go over it. Maybe that's not what we do here. But what I really want to be listening for is if Jake says, hey, those bullpens are in play, I need you guys to have your balls off the ground. I need you to have the equipment bags on the fence or not, not in that area. I'm going to be paying attention between pitches, between outs, between innings for sure. I'm going to put my eyes on it. The plate meeting is the place where I run through. It's just like your pre-pitch. What am I thinking about? At the plate meeting, the base umpire should be thinking about, what do I got responsibility for? My plate guy cannot see behind him. That's me. I can probably see these corners and the recessed areas better than he can. He can probably see the dugouts a lot better than I can. He can see some corners. So as he's talking, I'm thinking, what am I going to be working on today? What am I going to be paying attention to? Because the only assignment that matters, the only game in the world that's important to me is the game I got today. And I want to start that thinking process, that over focus, that double down in the plate meeting. I've already done it in the conference. I've already done it when I was sitting back in Jake's car or, wherever the hell we did our pregame. We've already talked about what we're going to do today and how we're going to focus. Plate meeting is a place to double that down. And you really want to be, like Russ said, if you think there's a grenade on that field, it's there and it's good. The ball's going to find it. So it's a good idea to have thought it through before the fact and think about, keep your eyes on it. We have hijacked your total meeting. Sorry about that, Jake.
No, you haven't hijacked it because this is great. And I want to bring a couple points to what you and Russ alluded to. Russ, you and I worked my first MIAC game together, and we were at St. John's. And I specifically remember when you and I were driving up to Collegeville that, we talked baseball.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we talked, and it was just general baseball. And as we got closer to the site, it more focused in on the game. And one of the things that you said was, hey, this is a remodeled field. We got weird, quirky bullpens here. This is how we play it. And so I already had an idea going into the plate meeting. Yeah. So when we had the plate meeting and the St. John's coach, who his name escapes me right now, Jerry. Says, all right, thank you. When he says, hey, we got this is what we're doing for a ground rule, I already know what's going on. And then I can just basically reconfirm that what we talked about in our pregame is the same as what I'm hearing at the plate meeting. And that's something that I try to do. I'll bring this to a South Dakota standpoint. Let's use we'll use Harrisburg as an example. They got the cattle gate in left field. They got the bullpens down each line, and so is going to be closed, but a ball will get through there. If it goes into a bullpen, we're going to play it as we usually play it, but we gotta go umpire that. And so I'll talk about that, and I'll add some weird, quirky ground rules into my plate meeting. It's no different than at Cadwell, where we actually have a tarp on the field. What are we doing with the tarp, and how does that work? The other thing, and I'm glad that Dan said this, because
We're losing you on the audio there, Jake.
Yeah, you're freezing.
I'm also glad that I said it. I just don't know what I said.
That if we have these weird dead ball areas, that we get them marked on the field. I had a Legion playoff game last year, and they extend the dugouts on both sides. It's a really weird field. They extend the dugouts in a certain way toward the field because that's where the equipment rack is at, and there's no possible way to get the equipment rack in the dugout. Well, every time I've been there, it's been we've played that area differently. So what did I do? I told the coach, hey, Mike, I need you to get me a line. Go grab a chalker or something like that and just give me a line. And he's like, sure, no problem. And I got a line. And that's what we played. And it is so simple. If you ask, nicely, they will go do that.
He's freezing up again. I'm going to steal the microphone.
Where
Jake.
that line of demarcation is.
Okay. One more thing I wanted to add for the base umpire. When you're in that play meeting, if I'm standing there with Jake and he and I have talked about this stuff and he gets rolling on some of the important stuff he's got to cover, he's trying to be brief, but we're getting finished and he didn't go over something, that's when I might say, hey guys, here's one more thing. Base umpire should not be talking generally, but it's better for you to interject and make sure that the team gets covered, that the umpire team explains to these men and these women what's going to happen, whoever's out there. It's more important that we get it covered than we leave it unspoken. You might want to feel like I'm deferring to my play guy. This guy's 20 years ahead of me. Bullshit. Bull crap. We want to make sure we get that out of the way and make sure that it's covered. And one more little thing I want to add in case we miss it. You will be formal in this meeting, but it's important to be friendly. You don't want to start any anecdotes. You don't want to say, hey, Tommy, remember that last time I was here? Don't do that. But if they do start a conversation like that and there's a delay for some reason, we tell a story. I've got a D1 game and the coach comes out and goes, shit, I didn't shoot. I didn't fill this form out correctly. So he runs back. So I've got one coach and 3 umpires. And we had a conversation that he wanted to tell. It was Todd from NDSU. And he wanted to tell us a story and he wanted to be engaging. And I could have shut him down and said, hey, we're working here. And I look like a turd. I mean, that's just the wrong response. If he wants to talk, you let him go. You bring him back around when his opponent comes back to the plate meeting. But being approachable starts right there. You want to be formal. In high school, it's even more important. These guys want to coerce you. They want to make it feel like they got a thumb on you. Acknowledge them and then say, we're not going there. I'm not going to engage that story. We can talk about that after the game. Maybe I'll see you in the parking lot. But you want to be accessible, but you don't want to lose the formality of this. We want to get this thing done the right way. And I think that's all I had for that piece of it. But is there anything else in Jimmy Jackson's notes, Jake, that we want to make sure we cover?
No, I don't think, as far as what Jimmy had to say, I don't think we have anything there. And when we kind of get to the summary, I'll kind of run through a field that I know really well, and I'll just kind of do my usual plate meeting with you and Russ as coaches. And then we'll just kind of go from there as if you've never played there before, just because it's a field I've worked at plenty of times.
Can I interject one thing?
Please do, Larry.
Okay. Speaking of the ground rules, when you got a live ball bullpen, say at the ground rules, if I find 2 balls, I'm killing it. Or if I find a piece of equipment that causes a problem for a player going to get the ball, I'm going to kill it and penalize the team that's at fault. Whatever that might be. It could be, don't let them have a base. It could give them one more base. It could be an out.
Yep.
I don't think I would ever get that far, but because first of all, you can't penalize the offensive team when the ball was thrown by the defensive team, get an out very often. But make sure if you've got that type of situation, you cover some of those possibilities. You can't cover them all, but you can say if it's caused by the equipment in the bullpen in the wrong place, then I'm going to penalize that team, whatever it might be. So that's my 2 cents.
Good notes there, Larry. So ground rules are important. It is important to know what we're doing and make sure that everybody's aware of what's going on and things like that. I'm going to move on to some of my pet peeves with plate meetings. And I'm sure that Russ, Dan, and Larry all have their own list of pet peeves. I came up with 5, and I'm sure that if I gave a little bit more thought to it, I could come up with far more. As a base umpire, I really hate when plate meetings become rules clinics. It's one thing if a coach has a question, but there's something weird that happens. That's a part of being approachable. But I don't like when we have these rules clinics that break out at a plate meeting unless there's a purpose to it. Case in point, and this will kind of blend with my chatty umpire bullet point here. Dan was talking about how we let the plate umpire control the plate meeting. Well, if the base umpire is going to step in, and if you mic me up during a plate meeting and I'm the base umpire, I will say 95% of the time that I interject, it's on the catch and carry rule to correct a ground rule issue. If my partner doesn't catch it, I'm going to step in, but I'm going to give my partner the first opportunity to correct the ground rule error. We don't need to talk about, what constitutes a hit by pitch, runners lane interference, all that stuff. These coaches, these managers, they should all know that stuff. And if they have a question, there is a specific time that is appropriate to address that. The plate meeting is not it. The next thing that I really bugs me is pregame warnings. And I should have put an asterisk there. But the pregame warnings about language, unless there is a specific reason or whatever that, hey, we need to issue pregame warnings, don't do it. Just do not issue pregame warnings, whether it be for language or anything else. And I have a couple reasons for that. Mainly, every game is a new game. Okay. If you think back to the discussion that Russ, Dan, Connor, and I had last year when we talked about handling situations, the phrase "great to see you again," it goes a long way because that phrase says, hey, it's a new day. The stuff that's happened in the past is water under the bridge. Pre-game warnings, in my opinion, not only are we not setting a good tone for the game, but then I can't manage the game. And at the end of the day, we manage games. In my mind, most plate meetings should take no more than 90 seconds. There's not, especially for game 2 of a doubleheader. I see when I go out and I watch other umpires work, I see these 2-3 minute plate meetings, and I'm looking at my watch and I'm going, this is the second game. Get the lineup cards, verify that they're okay. Any questions from the first game? No? Okay, let's have a good one. That's just a pet peeve of mine because it's an efficiency thing. Another one of mine is storytelling. There's an appropriate but the plate meeting is not it. And then, as Dan and I kind of have alluded to throughout this, chatty umpires, let the plate umpire run the plate meeting. If the base umpire needs to step in, do it at an appropriate time and in an appropriate manner, but do not, if you let the plate umpire do the plate meeting and the base umpire just stands there, observes, listens, and is engaged with the conversation, that looks great for the crew. If all of a sudden I'm working with an umpire that's new and I'm the base umpire, yeah, I've done this for 14 years. I've got a lot of experience. I've done a lot of plate meetings. But if I go and I start talking over, my partner, now I'm in essence throwing them under the bus, because my actions are saying that my partner is not capable of handling a plate meeting, and so I'm going to do it. The plate umpire usually handles a plate meeting, and so I want to project that. We want to project this crew continuity, and by letting the plate umpire do the plate meeting themselves and base umpires chiming in only if necessary, we can project that crew continuity. Russ, Dan, pet peeves. I'm curious to hear if you have any others.
Russ, go ahead.
I don't have anything different. You covered it, man. It's I'm silent here because I don't have anything to add. It's
The rookie umpire has got to sink or swim on his own.
yeah.
You prepared him. Now it's his turn. Let him sink or swim based upon your preparation. Some of them are going to screw it up, but so what? That's how they learn.
More.
That's true.
Well said, Larry. I think, one thing that I try to do, and Russ will vehemently disagree with me on this. I love taking the first plate. And so especially if I'm working with a newer umpire, I'm going to take the first plate. And that way I can kind of allow them to watch how I do my plate meetings. It's a great learning opportunity. And then between games, we'll talk about it. We might have some other stuff that we want to talk about just from base mechanics position or things like that. But, being able to talk about a plate meeting, because it does set the tone for that game, is something that's important. Dan, are we missing anything?
You're getting it.
Cool. I believe this is the summary. Okay. So before I kind of summarize everything, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of run through a normal plate meeting for the South Dakota umpires. We've all probably worked here. It's Harmon Park, Field 1. This is the big field. It's frankly my favorite field to work there because it's the nicest. And so just so everybody's aware, before I do this, there are 2 gates on each side of the field that a baseball, or going down the lines that a baseball can get out, and the fence in the outfield is tight. Everything's out of play. Okay. So that is, and then there's a concrete entry pad that is out of play in front of both, or at the entrance of both dugouts. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of model what a normal plate meeting is going to look like. And this can be used especially, and this one's going to be more geared towards if we have 2 teams that are playing at a neutral site, where the knowledge of the ground rules is going to come more onto the umpires and the umpiring crew as opposed to, the home manager. So Dan's my home manager. Russ is going to be my visiting manager. So I'll just start it now.
Man,
Hey, Dan, how's it going?
Hey, Jake, how's it going? Good to see you again. Listen, I got a question before we get started here. I just lost a game yesterday, and I got to tell you, what is this force play slide rule crap? I mean, what am I supposed to have my kid do? I don't understand. No, you got to cut me off there. You got to say, look, that's yesterday. So, but they'll do that because something just happened. Something fired him up. So, hey, Jake, good to see you. I'm Dan. Hey, Russell, good to see you.
Hey, Russ. Hey, Dan. Dan, that happened yesterday. If you want to talk about that, now is not the appropriate time to do that. We're going to focus on today's game. If you want to talk more about it, let's talk after the game. I'd be more than happy to discuss that with you. Dan, can I get your lineup card, please?
Here you go.
Can you get your lineup card? Thank you. Thanks, Dan. Hey, Dan, I see you got your catcher's in the 3 spot, and you got a courtesy runner already listed. Thank you. Your pitcher's in the 7 spot, and you have no DH. Is that correct?
That is correct. We're pitcher DHing today.
Fantastic. Russ, can I get your lineup card, please?
There you go.
Thank you. Russ, I see your pitcher is your leadoff hitter. You have no DH, and your catcher is in the 7 spot. Do you plan on courtesy running for either of those today?
We may as it comes up.
As it comes up. Okay, sounds good. If you do, just wait for the natural resolution to play, call time, and please let me know what number you have running for your pitcher or catcher. Dan, are all players legally and properly equipped?
Best I can tell.
Fantastic. Russ, are all your players legally and properly equipped?
I think so.
Okay, sounds good. Now, just a quick, I know this isn't a home park for either of you guys, so we're in a quick run through the ground rules here. So we'll start at the third base dugout. Dan, in your dugout, the facing of the dugout, including the wood behind the fence, we're going to play that is in play. The concrete that jets out of your dugout is going to be out of play, and you can put a bucket on there. I need you to keep the bucket on that concrete, though. If I see it on the field, I gotta have you get that back in the dugout.
Are you serious?
Going down
That's
the
what we're
line.
doing today? Have you seen how many kids I got? Where the hell am I supposed to put them, Jay? They can't sit on a bucket right there?
Not in front of the dugout. If they're on the concrete, they're okay there, but not in front of the dugout.
What are we, cops today? Come on, man.
That's the rule.
All right, fair play, Jay.
If we keep going down the line, got that field access gate right there. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when the baseball goes under there. If it goes under and not play,
We're losing your audio again, Jake.
it's a little bit tighter than that third base gate, but we're still going to play that the same way we play the gate if the ball goes under there and out of play. On the outfield, foul poles, flags, scoreboards, lights, everything's out of play. If it hits one of them, we're going to adjudicate it as such. The outfield fence is tight to the ground. I know we have a windscreen out there. If a baseball goes up and under there, call time, we'll run it, we'll umpire that. Russ, going down your dugout, we're going to play your dugout the exact same way. We also have that gate access there where a baseball will go out under that, and the same with the bullpen. If we come behind home plate, everything is tight, and except a baseball may get stuck under the pad every once in a while. If it does, raise your hands and we'll umpire it as such. You guys have any questions on the ground rules?
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
Fantastic. Hey, if you guys have any questions for us about a call that we make today, please wait for the natural resolution to play. Call time, come out to the calling umpire, and if we need to get together on something, we'll do that after you head back to your position, okay?
Hey, if I take a shit in your hat and make you put it back on, am I going to get ejected?
Probably.
I actually had that question. I'm not kidding. I'll jump in right here and say one thing. And Jake did a great job. You need to be ready to take control of the meeting and do the ground rules just like he did. But for almost all the coaches that I deal with, high school, college, wherever I see them, I'm going to ask the home coach to do it, and I'm going to interject and correct him. I'm going to jump on things where he might deviate from the rule book. But Jake's dead right, particularly if it's a neutral field. Be ready, understand what's important, check the rules that are maybe in the locker room. If there's something on the fence, know that stuff, because then you can control it. Like I said, be ready for replay, be ready for timing if you're at the college level, be ready for something weird or somewhere the coach tries to take advantage at the high school level, and be ready to run that part of the ground rules. But you want to defer to the home coach first if he's able and willing to do that.
Excellent stuff there. Just fantastic.
I want to go back.
Go ahead, Russ.
Are your players legally and properly equipped? I don't know what that means. Like, what by that question?
At the high school level, and I'm going to defer to Larry because my high school knowledge is not that of college or that you are to certify to the coaches prior to the start of a game that the players are using legal equipment, that they are properly equipped, and by legal equipment, bats are compliant not only with the legality of it, meaning it's not like a ghost bat or something like that, but also that they're free of the defects as far as flattening, they haven't been rolled, they're free of cracks and other deformities as well.
So I'm no longer a head coach. Now I'm an umpire with you. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The only acceptable answer to that question at the plate meeting is yes.
Correct.
Dan said, to the best of my knowledge, and I said, I think so, and you glossed right over that. The only acceptable answer is yes.
And we've got to figure it out on this, right in this meeting. It's got to become a yes or we're not starting. We trapped you there, young man.
Yeah. And it's okay. It's okay to say, if Dan says, to the best of my knowledge, it's okay to say something along the lines of, I need you to confirm. The rules require you to confirm. You would, I need something more than that. And if I say, I think so, it's okay to, again, say the rules require that you affirm that they are. So are they? I think so is not a proper affirmation.
That's right.
And
you're bound by the rules, but regardless. But if we start and you didn't say yes, we're gonna have a protest.
And then
it won't be their fault. It won't be Russ's fault. It won't be Dan's fault. It's gonna be that plate guy didn't tell me what he was looking for from that comment. That's some throwaway language there, Jake.
It's worse. It can get worse. And I'm not picking on you, Jake, just from the standpoint of trying to be that guy. I'm trying to protect everybody here. It's worse because Jimmy gets hit in the head and he gets injured and the helmet was cracked. And because of that crack, it didn't properly protect him. This is what Jimmy's mom's lawyer is going to say. And they're going to find out that, oh, well, you as the umpire, you couldn't see that the helmet was cracked. And then you're going to say, well, he told me his players were legally and properly equipped, and that's part of the equipment. And they're going to say, he didn't say that. He just said, I think so. And of course, the other head coach, Dan, is going to say, yeah, I heard him say, I think so.
Because I drink beers with the other coach. I don't drink beers with Jake. Guys, I tell my clients this when they walk into my office. Everybody that you deal with is your enemy until they're not. You've got to be ready to defend. You've got to literally cover yourself. I think everybody on this, everybody below, every name below mine here, y'all know never to touch an injured player. I don't give a damn if they're being carried off and there's a hole and you can go in there and fill in. Not on my dime, you don't, because you just can't carry the liability. It's a different world than it was back when I got hurt and the umpires would come over and damn near do CPR on you. They do it now. They're taking their children's college fund and pissing it away. So you've got to be on top of this. When Jake turns to me and says, are your players legally and properly equipped? It is a leading question to which the answer is yes or no. Anything else, and we got a problem. And if it's no, we're going to go over and fix it. We're not starting the game with uncertainty.
Resolution.
No.
And to use you two again, Jake and Dan, as a prop, if you will, for a few seconds. You aren't on the baseball field to offer legal advice. You're there to umpire a baseball game. Likewise, even if as an umpire, I am an EMT or a nurse or a registered nutrition or a doctor, that's not your role in a baseball game. Your role is an umpire.
Yep.
And even if you are a doctor, I believe it is wise to say, I can't help you. The only caveat to being a doctor and saying that is if no one else is around, I believe you're duty bound by your professional oath to offer aid. And that gets into scenarios I haven't seen in 31 years. I doubt anyone else is going to see. Larry, I highly doubt you've seen it too. But the point is you have to be very cognizant of those things. You cannot offer aid.
You can't. It feels weird. It feels bizarre. We had a game where a kid slammed his face into a fence post, ended up returning to that game because the coach was incompetent. And literally, I'm saying that the coach put this kid's physical health in the jackpot, and there's nothing we could do. We couldn't assess him. We can't determine whether he's got it's not our job. It's our job to follow and apply the rules, and you've got to be savvy about that stuff. So, Jake, you know, it sounded good. As far as I can tell, I'm compliant. I think I am. Russ said, got to stop there. These little points can burn your ass, and you want to be on top of them. And it's real easy to just turn it back and say, Coach, I'm sorry. That's not the answer. I can't live with that. You need to go over there. If you need to go figure it out, get it done. We'll do it now. But we're not playing until you tell me yes.
And the one thing that I'm going to push back, because we have umpires that are working in Minnesota as well. I know there are certain requirements that are actually statutory in Minnesota, because I have to ref high school hockey in Minnesota. I have to go through concussion training. I have to go through certain requirements to be considered a registered official in Minnesota. And at least in hockey, and I'm going to defer to Larry on this for the finer points, but in a hockey game, if I suspect that a player has a concussion, I, as an official, I can remove that player until they're seen by the athletic trainer. I believe that's the same with baseball, but like I said, I'm going to defer to Larry on this, and I want every umpire that's listening to this right now, or watching this back on YouTube, defer to your state rules. Okay. In South Dakota, we don't have a concussion rule.
Now, Minnesota asks you to do this with the coach. Coach, I've deemed it necessary for you to have him assessed.
That means we don't do the assessment, right? But we stop the game until it gets done. Jake, I take your friendly amendment. You're dead right. I have the responsibility to assess whether it might be a concussion, but I am not entitled to go in there and tell you whether it is or not. There's other facility, other personnel in Minnesota that'll do that. So Larry, carry on. I'm sorry.
Okay, and then the last thing, as long as we're being picky, depends on what level we're working, high school or pro, it's a 5-minute before game time, and college is 10 minutes before game time. So just to be real picky, some of us want to get it done at 15 minutes. Some of us want to get it done at 1 minute before. But it's 5 for the two and 10 for the other.
Yeah, I understand. To the point about concussions, the caveat in the rule book, in the high school rule book, as I recall it, is when in doubt, take them out. Again, you're not their doctor. If it doesn't look good to you, because as Dan said, a kid slams into an outfield post, he comes up as bleeding below or above his eye. Pretty good idea that he's got some head contact with something that's not normal. When in doubt, take him out. And then the assessment is done by a professional who is not you, not affiliated with the umpire crew. And then that healthcare professional is the one who is allowed to say yes or no. They can come back.
I would use that bleeding 10-minute rule there. Let's say you think there's a concussion. If he can get him back in, if the healthcare professional is there and he can say within 10 minutes he's coming back, then that's kind of a outside limit maybe. Otherwise you're delaying the game too long. They can't assess them in that short in 10 minutes. Maybe, and don't start the clock until you get the healthcare professional there.
Another important point, and Dan and I have started this a couple of years ago, even last year when they brought this thing in an area where you have a trainer, you would actually ask the trainer, not the head coach, are you, the trainer, putting that player in the concussion protocol? And this answer doesn't matter. You just need to know what they're doing.
Right.
If it's and to be not to be a little flip about this, but if it's obvious he rolled his ankle and he's on the ground holding his ankle, it's highly unlikely you're asking, hey, is he in concussion protocol? But it's never the wrong thing to do is to ask that question.
Yep.
Because you then be told, no, he's not in concussion protocol. Rule wise, in the NCAA, that then eliminates that player from the ability or eligibility to re-enter.
That's right.
If you get an affirmative, yes, he's in concussion protocol, then okay, that's good to know. Make a note of it on your lineup card and move on.
I think one thing that we haven't really touched on is the effective reentry in this situation. I know we got the 10-minute rule, but reentry can apply in a limited set of circumstances under certain rule sets. And so that just to complicate things a little bit more. Hey, Jesse, are you on this call still?
I am.
Fantastic. Hey, I know that we've touched on a lot of stuff for Minnesota, because I know there's a little bit more formality that's already been set forth by either the Minnesota State High School League or NBA. Is there any guidance, wisdom? And for those of you that don't know, Jesse is the newly reelected secretary of the South Dakota Umpires Association.
By
Is there
default,
any-
I might add.
By default.
Out of the room, were you?
Yeah.
But-
Short straw.
Yeah, your job is appreciated, my friend. But I guess the question that I have before we kind of summarize everything and open it up to any other remaining questions, do you have any direction for umpires in South Dakota as far as how either Class A, the High School Baseball Association, or VFW Legion and so forth want South Dakota umpires to handle a situation like a concussion?
There is some specific language in the Legion rule book. I'm a little foggy on it myself. I need to get back in it again. The high school, while high school's club in South Dakota, they do follow the Fed book. It's with a few minor exceptions. Concussions not being one of them. So we would use the Fed guidelines for that. There's really nothing that I'm aware of for amateur baseball. In VFW, they haven't really adopted a specific rule. They've adopted the Major League rule book, but they have a lot of high school crossovers. Again, without being specific, I would say follow the Fed. They seem to have a pretty good handle on things, and for the most part, they seem to err on the side of caution. And as Dan and Russ mentioned before, you can't be too careful. I know guys might be upset taking kids out of the game, or at least getting involved, but you could be saving yourself a lot of trouble.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. Well,
And
Go
I've
ahead.
had conversations with coaches before, and it's coaches' helmets, things like that. I hear, oh, I'm not going to sue you. I'm like, well, I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about your insurance company. They've got better lawyers than you do, and than I do. So, that you're not the one I'm scared of.
Nobody likes lawyers.
ain't that the truth?
I don't know what to
No
say there.
comment.
Jake, let me jump in real quick. I got a couple of quick
Go for it.
references. I went through the Referee magazine and thought about buying some books this year, and I did in fact bite on everything pitchers can and can't do. This is all three levels: Fed, NCAA, and OBR, and it's magnificent. It's a great, primer to get you going. If you're a college official, I have a hard time reading the rule book. It's a little dry for me. I know this is backwards, but it's the study guide. So it's kind of like the old casebook for high school. This thing is worth its weight in platinum. It really is good. But more importantly, for the new umpires, the shit nobody told you crossed off and it's now stuff. I have this. I'm going to send this to you, Jake. I have this. I basically asked for permission and I've copied it so I can send it out to my younger umpires. This thing is vital. It talks about where to park, talks about how to keep your clothes safe. It talks about all sorts of little stuff that the guys at umpire school get, drilled into their brains, that Russ and I have been dealing with now for almost 30 years. In my case, 31 in his. It's kind of like advice you get from old farts like us when we're not around, but they're worth their weight. They're about, I think each one is about $14 from Referee magazine. I couldn't recommend them more highly.
Good stuff. Before we wrap up, any last questions from anybody here that's participating? All right. Well, I'm gonna stop the recording here.